Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat on the Serious Angler Network, brought to you by X2 Power. And guys, today we've got a great show lined up. More of a traditional Business from the Bass Boat show, talking a company in the industry, how it all came about, and also someone who has been on the show before, certainly a friend of the show, talking a little bit of fishing, talking about some of his plans for 2024 and all that's kind of happening in the fishing industry. Obviously, we're kind of in the off season here into 2023. Definitely a lot of change up and drama, as always, in the fishing industry, but also we're at an economic time where I feel like there's definitely, in my eyes, I've been a little bit more concerned with looming recession. And obviously that's been talked about for years and years and years, but we've had interest rates stay high for a really, really long time. So anyways, those are kind of my thoughts there. But without further ado, let's bring in Mr. Taylor Watkins and Tim with the Sniper Marine crew. What's going on, gentlemen?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Just moved this last summer here from Colorado to Idaho, of all places. So learning some of these fisheries out here and been really impressed with them, and then big hunter as well. So this time of the year is it's a busy time for sure in the fall.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Dude, I heard Idaho has got some really good fishing that not a lot of people know about.
That's right, man. That's right. And it does. I think there's some stuff protecting it because it's such a pain in the butt to get to some of these places. Like, I mean, right, you got mountains all around and it's only accessible for times of the year. But yeah, man, there is I've been really impressed. And these fish just they don't have like as much of the pressure as you see in a lot of other parts of the country. So surprisingly, some of it's still like, man, in today's world and very pertinent to this show, it's like you can see them so dang well on scope and forward facing sonar these days. And they still could be a pain in the butt sometimes where you're like, man, like these fish are supposed to be easy. And it's like, dude, there still has to be a bite window that opens and whatever else. So it's still fishing. There's no doubt, but I agree. Yeah. There's some incredible fishing up here.
I think that's the most frustrating thing about live sonar is now, used to you just be like, oh, well, they're not home, but now they're there and you just can't get them to bite.
Yeah.
At least for me anyways.
Oh, dude. Well, I just got done with the Toyota Series Championship a couple weeks ago here. And actually the show that'll go out before this was with Jody White. And he was like, man, I didn't want to really bring it up, but you caught him day one. And then you just bombed day two. Like, what kind of happened? And I'm like, man, they were still there. Like I promise you, they're still there. I looked at them and I went back to them over and tried different angles and different baits. And it's just like, it was just one of those days where it didn't happen, but you're dead on. Like I was catching fish out of brush piles and off of rock piles, and every single one of those ones that I didn't catch the day before were still there, and pressure and everything else, but I couldn't get him to go the second day.
Yeah, kind of like a Happy Gilmore moment, where he misses the putt and the guy's like, geez, it's about time. He's like, yeah, it is about time. I wanted to put it in the hole. I just couldn't, it's like, I wanted to catch him. I just couldn't.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right. Well, guys, I guess first let's break into Taylor, your 2023 season. I listened to the Bass Talk Live episode that you did with Panger, obviously a great friend of the show and runs an incredible podcast. And I know that you had made the jump from the NPFL. We had John when you were just, smoking them on the NPFL, made the jump to the opens, and now you're looking at 2024. And where's your head at right now? How do you feel 2023 went for you, and what are things looking like in 2024?
So 2023 was quite the challenge, going from NPFL where we had 90 anglers, something like that, 100 anglers, to a 225 boat field and 5 days of practice. And the guys at NPFL could catch them. There's no doubt about it. But the pressure alone changes these fisheries so much and so fast. From day one, day two of practice to the last day of practice to when the tournament starts, and I'm sure you saw it where at the Toyota Championship, you know, like
Right.
you go out there the first 2 days of practice, it's almost easy.
Dude,
And
it was
then,
on.
yeah. And then it just shuts down
Yeah.
and things change. And it really took me a little bit to kind of adjust to that and kind of figure that out. And like I said on BTL, like my season last year doesn't really show how the season went. Like if you look at the standings,
Yeah.
because the first 2 or 3 tournaments, I knew that I was out of the, well, probably the first 3 tournaments, I knew I was out of the points. So I was really trying to win one. And,
Right.
you know, like I had a mediocre day 1, I would really try and go catch them big on day 2 to get in that top 10 to try and put myself in position to win. And it never happened. You know, I mean, heck, I missed a check by 8 ounces. I missed a check by 12 ounces. You know, and things like that where I probably could have did something a little bit different, you know, and went and cut a check and maybe put myself in the top 25 or something like that. But that wasn't the goal. So
Right.
That part was a little bit frustrating, you know, towards the end of the season. And I don't know, it just that was a big learning curve going to the opens from the NPFL. If I could do it again, I think things would be a lot different, you know, as far as finishes and how I approached practice and how I approached things. Because, you know, the first tournament of those 9 was the first Bassmaster Open that I had ever fished in my life.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had fished some Toyotas and stuff like that, but I just don't think it compares to the Open. But and also in 2023, I changed jobs. I came to work with the guys here at Sniper. That was right in the middle of the season, you know, and man, that was a big turning point in the middle of the season and kind of allowed me to really clear my head. And you know, these guys were awesome. It was like, hey, go do your thing, man. You know, like go catch them, wear it out. You know, stress free out there as far as job wise goes. And made a big difference in the end of the season. And I really put myself in the position to do well in a couple of those tournaments. It was just one of those things that didn't really work out. But
yeah, no, totally, man. Well, it's like that's the thing about tournament fishing is there's so many storylines outside of that top 10, right, that never get talked about, or you know, a breakdown, or you lose that one. It's just the way that it goes sometimes, and it's a game of inches, right? Like those subtle differences, like those one bite could jump you 60 places in the standings and you'd look like a hero, right? And it's like, man, I caught a lucky 5-pounder at the end of the day. Like I don't, you know, so it's just tournament fishing. And man, yeah, it's just I think that's just how it goes, man. You know, that's one of those seasons, like everyone seems to have one every once in a while. And like you said, I do think too, like that 5 days of a beat down on a fishery and 200 and something boats on it, like, boy, it plays a difference. And I saw that too, just in the Toyota Series Championship, compared to other things, because we had 4 days of practice there. What was nice is they did do an off day, and then it was the tournament. But yeah, like that, a lot of boats running around, and you sure know that those same places you look, other people are looking too.
yeah, it was. I mean, the first tournament, I was practicing and I got on a little deal and I ran around a point around. I was like, I'm going to go to this pocket. While I went in the pocket, there was 9 people in there, 9 boats.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? I mean, if I get a bite or 2 and they get a bite or 2 and that person gets a bite or 2, there's going to be 5 of us in here.
Right.
So I wouldn't even go in there to practice at all, you know.
Right.
And it was a big wake up call on that first tournament for sure.
And it's just almost a complete different strategy, right? Like when you're talking Elite Series field, NPFL, when there's that 100 boats and that kind of a thing, like it's a whole different way to fish, I think, in my eyes anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I kind of, and this is a little tip for anybody that might be watching, that might be fishing the opens. Like, I think one of the biggest things in the opens from my experience last year was put yourself around the biggest population of fish in the entire lake and just figure out how to catch them that day. And that's how you'll succeed in the opens. Trying to go and I like the way that I fish, I'll go to an area that might only have a few fish, but there's a couple of big ones.
Right.
Well, those fish have already been caught or harassed or messed with. They're gone.
Yeah, those resident fish get picked up quick in a big field.
especially in 5 days of practice, and so I really think if I had to do it again, I would just find the biggest population of fish and use live scope and everything that I possibly could to my advantage and try and figure out how to catch them that particular day around the most fish there is in the lake.
Okay. I like it, man. I think that's a good piece of advice. And that's makes a lot of sense for when you're talking that big of a field and everything else. And so looking at, tough 2023 and now rolling into 2024, what are things looking on the Taylor Watkins front? What are things looking like?
I hate to say it, but I mean, I think I'm going to take kind of a step back a little bit, and I mean, there's so much stuff going on in the fishing industry right now. Things are, I mean, I say fishing industry, professional fishing, bass fishing. Mm-hmm. Professional bass fishing is, I mean, I'm going to throw it out there. It's on the rocks. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty all around. Right. And, I'm going to take a step back and, of course, I'll probably fish some stuff locally. And, like I still love fishing. There's no doubt about that. But as far as, big entry fee, high stakes bass fishing, I'm going to take a step back and I'm on board with Sniper Marine, and I also own a company called Omega Custom Tackle, and I'm going to kind of shift some of that focus. I mean, I was probably gone for 14 weeks total last year from home. Yeah. And that's tough on owning your own business and, working for somebody else. And I mean, that really puts a lot of stress on all the relationships around you, and I mean, family, work, the whole 9 yards, and so I'm going to take a little step back and kind of focus on my career and my business and, my family and just kind of see where things go.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I think that's, it's like people following you are like, oh man, I don't want to hear that. And this kind of a thing. But, it's something Jody and I talked about too, some of the episode. I'm not trying to be a downer on professional fishing. I love professional fishing. I follow it like crazy. I will be a nerd on it until the day I die. Right. But it's like, I agree. What I've noticed with myself is like kind of took this approach of pursuing it really, really heavily at my level, which was more like, hey, I'm going to fish some of this stuff as a co-angler in a distance. I'm going to jump into the Toyota series as a pro on the boater side and kind of like working my way through that. And something I've noticed is what you said is like every day that I spend traveling for a fishing tournament and going in that, it's like, I love that and I cherish that experience. And I've decided I don't want that to be necessarily my full-time gig at this point in my life by any means. And I'm trying to grow business and everything else. And so, but it's true. Like, you start to look back at it and you're like, man, that was a great week or this and that, or if you struggled that week, but it's like every day that you take away from that, you're taking away from, your career and family time and all that. So it's certainly not, it's not for everyone. And it is a brutal road. And we've seen it too, right? Where guys they go and do it. And then, they fall out of it completely and then come back way stronger too. I've seen that before too. So it's not like it's the end of the world and you just got to decide what's right for you and the current, where things are going as it sits,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it never hurt, I worked a long time to get to where I was, and I'm not gonna lie, it hurt. Like it hurt. You can ask Tim. I mean, I don't want to say that I moped around here, but Tim's like, come on, dude, you got to pick it up, man. We got, like trying to help, pick me up, and everything. And it was tough for a couple of days there. I mean, it was a rough week. I had a rough week a couple weeks ago, but me and my wife, we took a trip last weekend, and dude, I shot a monster buck on public land with my bow.
Let's
and it
go.
was like, dude, that was like,
you have to send me a picture of that buck.
Oh yeah, I will. I was excited, and that was kind of the juice in the arm that I needed of like, this is what life's about, like spending time with family and doing things like this and everything, so it's good. We're on the right track and going. So
gotcha, man. Awesome. And so 2024, spending more time working with Sniper Marine, working on Omega, working on family stuff, everything else. So how does or what, I guess first let's get into Omega and then we'll talk Sniper Marine. Oh no, we lost him. Coming back. You guys back? All right.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Well, anyways, so Omega, I remember kind of this was right when you had a couple of big wins in the NPFL. And in my head, it was like, okay, this is a smart, you're taking some chips off the table, meaning you're going to take some of these earnings, right? And then you bought Omega Tackle and have this deal behind you. And right, Omega, awesome jigs. And then, all kinds of unique tackle things. Like always remember the eyes on all the Omega stuff for sure. But anyways, how has that been for you? How has that been running that while fishing at a super high level? What is how has that been since you purchased Omega?
Yeah, that was I'm still trying, like, throughout the year last year I was trying to balance all of that. And that was part of the whole year, like trying to figure out how to balance that. And,
Right.
and it's hard. It was a lot more difficult than I really thought it was going to be. There's, you try and take care of everything you can take care of before you leave. And there's just some things that you can't get to, and still trying to work a full-time job as well. That was part of the early part of the year that was like so stressful. And then, of course I came over with Sniper and they've given me freedom to, hey, if you need to go take care of something, go take care of it, dude. Like, that was kind of part of the deal. And coming over here and working with these guys, and that's been a huge stress relief. But running a business, fishing 9 opens, and trying to work a full-time job, it's difficult.
This is a lot of hats, man. That's a lot of hats to wear.
Yeah, and trying to have a family, dude. I mean, it's which my wife is part of the business too, but sometimes you want to enjoy each other, not want to kill each other. So
right. Working it with the family can be like has its ups and downs, like bringing home work to you.
Yeah, as we like to call it, it's a challenge. But there's nothing that you can't conquer with a challenge. So we don't like to call it a problem. It's just a challenge. But
not a problem, just a challenge. I like that.
That's right.
Words of wisdom.
Yeah. So, that's part of my decision this year is, we need to get that on track, get everything. I agree. I think Omega is a great company, has tons of potential. And my whole point in getting Omega was so that I could fish full time,
Right.
and I wouldn't have to worry about a title sponsor per se, like, because I would already be working for that title sponsor, and it would coincide with everything. And, so does Sniper Marine. So, I mean, everything has a purpose, God has a plan, and, I'm just trying to follow the path, and we're, I think we're on the right path. It's just, his path is not always what we think it should be. So,
yeah. Well, man, I like that. And I've said this before on the show, and I think it just reigns true. And history repeats itself so much that it's like you really just got to look back a little bit and you kind of see the same cycles occurring, right, with everything. But something that I've thought about was still, and I need to get him back on the show because it was just an awesome show, is I had Pete Glusek on from the Bass Tank. Or no, I'm sorry, not the Bass Tank. I'm talking about the Bass University, right?
Yep.
As far as that stuff goes. And he was talking about when he was on a roll tournament fishing, like he was winning. I mean, he was just killing it. It was right around that 2008 time frame, and the economy just dropped out. And he said it was call after call of, man, I'm sorry, we can't have you on our sponsor staff going into 2008 or whatever year it was. Or it was the next call was, we got to reduce you by 75%. Like, we had you this for this much monthly last year, or this is what we're going to go to. And in that moment, he was like, man, I need to put some of this in my own hands. And that's when he started the Bass University and built that whole business up in his own thing, was to say, look, I can't just rely on other people and sponsor dollars in my head because it's too risky for me and my family. So it's something that I've always thought about, and as we see changes and everything happening now, and I don't think this is gonna be nearly as bad, in my opinion, of a recession, but we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. But I feel like I feel like, things are starting to happen. Like, there's more and more stuff, kind of not trying to be negative from that standpoint, but, like, it's got me a little nervous around things and just conversations I've had on the fishing industry and everything else. Like, it's kind of like, there's gonna be some, um, headwinds ahead of us, I think, in the coming years. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I thought. But right now is a good time to kind of reset, regroup, and get ready for that. Because as everybody knows, it's up and down, and
Mhm.
we're kind of in a lower spot right now, and that's evident because I was kind of in the same position. I made calls to sponsors, and they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, we're not in position to do anything this year." And
Yeah.
it's kind of just like Pete's story. Just like you said, history repeats itself, and I don't know, maybe one day I'll have the same success story he has. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, he's done some awesome stuff over there, there's no doubt. So, no, man, well, I think that's awesome, and I like how open you're being with all of it too, I think it's good for people to hear, and a lot of kids trying to chase this thing, and there's nothing wrong with chasing it. I think some of them will be great successful, but I think it's worth being realistic about how expensive and, how hard it really is, when it comes down
And
to it.
that's a big thing for me was, I was painted this picture that is all roses and rainbows. You go win a couple of tournaments and you got it made, and if there's anybody out there that wants to reach out to me and send me a message or whatever, I'll tell them the truth,
Yeah.
and it's not impossible. It's not, you can do it,
Mhm.
but you better be prepared. And and I've had a couple of guys that I've talked to over the past couple of years, and tried to mentor them. And one of them in particular, he was super upset that I was not fishing NPFL because this is going to be his first year to
Oh, okay.
fish NPFL, and he wanted to travel together and everything. And he called me 2 years ago and was like, "Taylor, what do I need to do?" And I told him to the T what he needed to do and the steps he needed to take. And by gosh, he went out and did it.
Wow.
And
Good
I
for
mean, and he's ready, dude. I mean, he is ready. He fished college, and he's got sponsorship lined up, and I mean, he's ready to go, man. And I'm stoked for him. I'm stoked to see how he
Yeah.
does and how things go for him. But had I had somebody to teach me those things 5, 8, 10 years ago, I might be sitting in a different position now. But then again, that wasn't my path. That wasn't that my path is my path, his is his. And maybe these things were supposed to happen to me so that I could help him. And
Yeah, dude.
that's the way that I look at this. So
I like it, man. Well, and that's sad to hear that you don't get to join him traveling, but you'll be able to root him on and everything else. And the nice thing, I will say, the nice thing about, and this is like not playing armchair quarterback, but I sure enjoy watching live fishing, and I'm sure you'll have plenty of the NPFL going on in the shop and everything else while you're looking at things because gosh, man, that's just how it goes. I feel like if I'm not fishing, I'm certainly watching live fishing.
yeah, absolutely, we're the same way here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's get into Sniper Marine. So, man, I've seen some of your posts with this just around, shooting under docks on the side of the boat and all these kinds of things. I mean, so where did this concept come from? I've seen the big mounts. I've seen, like the motorcycle grip. I mean, walk us through how Sniper Marine came about and a little bit of background on y'all.
Yeah, so I'm Tim with Sniper Marine, and I am one of the, I guess, co-founders, you'd call us. The other gentleman is Trey. He couldn't make it on the show, but basically, me and Trey, we were college roommates,
Okay.
and we always loved business. Always knew that business and some type of business was what we would end up in, and uh, we don't have enough time for the full story, but bottom line is we remained friends through college, outside of college, and fast forward to COVID, and
Mhm.
Trey had bought live scope for his boat, and we went out and immediately knew that we didn't like it on the trolling motor, and so
Mhm.
then we started looking at other options, and at that point in time there wasn't an option that satisfied us.
Okay.
And there was a lot of manual poles. There were some electronic poles on the market as well. We didn't like the electronic stuff. We've got enough electronics to go wrong, enough batteries and everything else.
Sure.
But the manual poles, they were just too limited. And we looked at it and we thought, we're not gonna spend money on that. We'll make our own. So we did, and of course that looked like a PVC pipe, like a lot of guys make.
Right.
And after doing that, you're running down the lake. You're in a $50,000 bass boat. And you've got a $1,500 transducer hanging off a piece of PVC pipe. We thought, well, that's pretty silly.
Right.
And plus, it still didn't do what we wanted it to. We automatically knew we wanted something that spun 360 degrees.
Sure.
And so basically, COVID had hit, and my background at this time's in real estate, and my crystal ball broke as well, and the repairman was way backed up. So I thought I had some time to kill. So we started building, a pole that spun 360 degrees in my shop. And if you scroll through our website, you'll see some of our prototype pictures, and they're pretty funny. I mean, we made it out of just some random spare parts laying around, electrical boxes and PVC pipe, and really it's pretty comical. But we proved our theory, and then continued on the design, and luckily we got teamed up with a local machine shop that was willing to help make a professional version of our pole, and we did. And once we had it, this part of this also was chasing a dream. We lived in a dorm room that, I mean, it was seriously a 10 by 10 box.
Yep.
And we'd stay awake at night watching Shark Tank.
Dude,
and
sounds like me. This is crazy.
We love it, right?
Yeah.
So everybody on Shark Tank, first question with a product is, do you have a patent? And and I've got a couple other buddies that own some patents, and they collect royalties, and it's like, man, how cool is that?
Right.
Like, they created something and then sold it, and or they were a part of a company that they created the product for, and they're just sitting back collecting the dividends. But that was always a dream, own a patent. Like, that's something that was just always a dream of ours. And so once we got this all designed, we took it to try to get a patent, and now we've got I think 4 patent pending products, maybe 5. But so we're still chasing that dream. But that was a part of this dream. And once we got a product, and the guys that we showed it to, they're like, shoot, yeah, that thing's awesome. So we started Sniper Marine, and here we are now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it's a perfect name for how forward-facing sonar has come, right? Like, you're scoping them, you're sniping them. Like, it's something where it's hunting, right? Like, that's what it is a lot of the time. So that's awesome to hear. And to not have batteries, I think, is a huge advantage. And to me, especially, the way I see it is like, probably so a lot of crappie guys in that market, as far as having that pole system. And then in addition, it's like, if you're with a buddy, I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, I wonder if this will take off from a team tournament standpoint. If you're, like, scoping one guy on the trolling motor, one guy over here, or that kind of a thing. Or, like, what about co-anglers, right? Like, a co-angler is going to start lugging this in. What does that stuff look like? Have you guys had any, I guess, people utilizing it in that instance?
Oh yeah. And you'll see, I don't know how much I'm really allowed to share, but we're working on some stuff.
Okay.
We've got a lot of stuff that we're working on that's really going to be cool. We love to create stuff. We just love piddling and making, creating, and that's really. I hate going fishing or doing something fun and being frustrated with a product, or being frustrated with something really outside of the realm of what we're trying to do. And so we just keep trying to make things better, easier. We're going to be releasing our own mount coming up, and it's simple stuff. Our product, it's gear driven, and when people look at it, especially at like the shows that we go to, you've got a lot of other, handymen out there, and they'll look at it and be like, "Oh, I'll make this in my garage," and hey, send us photos when you get done. They're not going to do it. I'm sorry, but like, it looks real simple, but there's a whole lot more there than meets the eye.
Right.
But yeah, we like simplicity. We like, gears. I mean, our product, we have absolutely hands down the strongest pole on the market, and that's what we like. We don't want to worry about batteries going dead. We don't want to worry about something getting wet. We don't want to worry about. We just don't want to worry, and so that was a big push behind our product. Make it simple, make it effective, and really it's limitless. We have really the only product that truly spins 360 degrees. It moves as fast, as slow, it's as precise as you need it to be, so that you can make your perfect cast. And like the sniping, so Sniper Marine, that's where that came from, right? Just we were sniping them. I mean,
Right.
like we used to always joke before live sonar, we'd be out fishing, and you'd make a cast, and you'd think it's a perfect cast, right? And as the lure's flying through the air, you can make one of those comments, oh yeah, it's right in their mouth, throw it in their mouth. And now you really can. You can beat them in the head with a lure. You can throw it in their mouth. I mean, it's so that's where that came about. But it's great. I mean, it's been fun.
That's awesome. So that's what's cool in my eyes too, is like during COVID, that's when this podcast started. That's when it's like, it gave people that time to maybe build that business and really start something special, because you couldn't do if you, whatever you were doing, or like maybe you changed from working from home and whatever else. So like it gave people the opportunity to pursue other things. So there's some silver lining, I think, there in a time frame like that. But man, I think it's neat. I really like the idea of the side of the boat while idling. I think we're seeing more and more. I mean, I was staying with some guys at the Toyota Series Championship, where co-angler we were staying with, he drew a guy on day 2 that had 2 live scope transducers going off the back of his jack plate too, right? So he was literally using them as a side scan, and then obviously one on the front too. But you're seeing more and more of that, and you're going to continue to see. And I'm not sure what will or will not get limited, right, in professional fishing. But like, man, I see, so at this point, for me, I have so much more confidence looking at stuff with forward-facing sonar than I do at side scan, down scan. I can cover more water efficiently with those things, but like, man, at the end of the day, if I wanna, like, look at an area, I'm picking the dang trolling motor up and I am looking, right? Like, that's how I practice now. But it's neat to me to be able to do that from your driving seat or whatever else, you know?
Yeah, and that's something that we're really trying to. When we first launched this product back 2 years ago, we were talking to the bass. Really, the bass crowd has been hard to get a hold of. You mentioned the crappie guys.
Yeah.
The crappie guys, they love it. They see the use for it. Of course, it's a different style of fishing, right? But
Right.
the bass, we knew that if we could get the bass anglers on board, it would be with our at the helm mount model. We call it the Scout model. And
Okay.
that's really what it's used for. You can drop it in, you can troll around with your big motor, your side scanning, and everything else. And at the same time, you can turn that transducer and you can get that clear image of really what you're looking at. And it really allows the angler to really cover a lot of water and truly know what's there.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of my thoughts too, is like, I'm just personally, I'm a trolling motor, forward facing sonar guy, because I want both my hands to be able to make that cast and everything like
Right.
that. And I'm just thinking through the use case here for a bass guy, like you're saying. Another one that I've thought of, or something that I'm sure you thought of too, but man, the walleye guys, like, as far as the walleye guys go, like, that's getting super innovative how they're using forward facing sonar to troll, for some of these big walleyes, and bumping their spinner bait on treetops and whatever else, but watching it 80 feet behind the boat. And so like, I wonder, some of that could be really easy as you're sitting there trolling, thinking through as far as controlling that scope.
Yeah, and that's definitely a market we're trying to get into as well. We've got a few walleye fishermen that are, I mean, they're reaping the benefits right now. But
Yeah.
a lot of these guys, they get it and they see the benefit and
they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, they want to,
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, which it's a great compliment, right? It's like, dang, our product is helping them that much. They want to keep it a secret, but at the same time, it's like, hey, please tell your buddies so they can buy one.
Right. There's like a boat coming. You're like taking it, putting it in the box. Like, no one could see that.
You wouldn't believe the Bassmaster Elite Series messages and phone calls that we've been getting in this off season. And they're all like, "Well, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to." It's like, oh, come on now, like
right.
Most of them are like, you know what? I'll just buy it. And so it is what it is. I mean, but eventually, hopefully, it's going to get out, and people are going to see the benefit of it and really jump on board, and this thing's going to take off big time. Like this scout pole right here. Tim's got our little scout right here. This guy, and one thing that we haven't talked about is the kayak industry.
Dude.
So this little scout model.
Yeah, it's just a short thing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's only just a couple feet long, and this thing is compact, and this is the deal for the kayak guys. And there's some guys, and I think you might know one of them really well.
Yeah.
And he is reaping the benefits of this thing right now. So,
totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's a market that I keep talking about with Bailey and with just different guys, as far as I think the kayak side is more and more getting crazy advanced, right? We're seeing kayaks that are 10, 12,000 bucks when they're all said and done, and put graphs on them and everything else. And it's like, totally, like just finding any little way to have that. I'm thinking more so too, like think about the amount of, right. Like we get so focused in the fishing world, or at least I do, on tournaments and like, $80,000 bass boats, 100,000, all this. And that's the world that I play in. But it's like, think about how many guys have a John boat and want something that's affordable, easy to stick on to get into the game. Like if I'm at this point, and this goes out to anyone listening to this show, if I'm going to do one thing to upgrade my boat in 2024, I'm putting a scope on there. Like that is like, that's it. Like if there's like, you can upgrade this, you can upgrade that. Like there's one thing that matters in my eyes, as far as it's going to be the most effective bang on your buck. And that's a great way to do it on those platforms that maybe aren't as traditional as we think through things.
And Black Friday's coming up too. So
there you go.
Eye out.
Pay attention
for those deals.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
You mentioned economy earlier, and that's something obviously we've been in big discussion. We had a great past year. We're looking forward to finishing it off strong. But, what does next year hold for us? Yeah. And, of course, as we talk to dealers and they talk about new boat sales being way down and X, Y, and Z, one thing that I'm hoping for is that these guys, instead of buying a brand new boat, they're just going to upgrade the boat that they have. And so we're hoping that that's going to continue to keep us strong.
No doubt. And that's the exact conversation I had with our sponsor, Steve, at Bass Fishing Electronics. It's like, he's felt like things have been pretty dang strong. And he has said that same deal, as he attributes some of that to the thought process of, in the future here, or like as rates have stayed, and you're a real estate guy, I'm a real estate guy, like rates have stayed so high for so long that, boat sales are certainly hurting. And so if people aren't spending on those big ticket items, then what's the best way to upgrade the boat that you have? I mean, realistically, it's a platform, right? Like if you gave me a brand new 2010 boat, or you could tell me that it was reliable motor-wise and everything else, like I'm going to be able to compete as long as I have the graphs on there with anyone that's in a 2023 brand new boat. Right. So it's like, to me, I totally agree. Like, I think that's where I see it. And you know what always catches me in the fishing industry when I know, like, hey, boat sales are getting a little bit tough?
What's that?
It's when motor companies start going with a 5-year warranty. Like if you notice, like Mercury, Yamaha, Suzuki, like they all start pushing like 5-year warranty guaranteed. Like, but when COVID was going on and boat sales were going like crazy, like all that stuff, right? It's 3. It's 3. It's like we're not doing more than 3. That's what it is. And so then it's
can't buy more, nothing. Yeah.
Right. So it's just something that I picked up on is interesting to me, because that's when you're like, oh, things might be getting harder, more warranties coming out. Like they're trying to give some incentive to get people to make that upgrade.
It is. That's a great point, because if you remember back in whatever it was, 07, 08, 09, 10, you had the cash for clunkers deal going on when all the auto manufacturers were way down. And they do. Heck, you've got trucks still out there with lifetime warranty. Well, who in the right mind would think to give a vehicle a lifetime warranty? But kudos to the guys that bought them and are holding on to them, because
no joke.
That'll probably never happen again, right?
Right. Well, and I don't know if this is I don't follow the obviously the car market all that much, but I've been seeing some dealers post lifetime not like powertrain warranties, right? Your transmission, your motor, lifetime warranties on those situations, and it's been like, I wonder the same kind of deal. Like, is that just trying to draw those buys in,
Yeah, for sure.
Man. Crazy world. But dude, that is great to hear. And I like the idea, again, like I said, from a bass guy's perspective, being at the console and being able to steer that thing, right? Because even if you did mount it on a jack plate and you were using it as one side of a side scan to look under docks or whatever else, you're still having to control the boat in a way to where you can't just like, oh wait, I saw something there and spin it real quick, right? And take a look at something. And so much anymore, like for instance at the Toyota Series Championship at Table Rock, right? Like you saw a lot of guys dropping the trolling motor down, getting back, and then if they had the same brand as if they had a Garmin up front, and then running their graph and driving around and everything else. But I feel like having it right at the console makes you even more efficient, to where you can drive and look instantaneously, not have to focus too much about driving. But I like it. I mean, I'm sure you used a bunch of it this year, Taylor, as far as things go. Have you been using that in your practice routine?
Yeah, and it definitely, it's different, man. It's something that you've got to put into your routine. You know what I'm saying? And but I made a video at Lake of the Ozarks, and it legitimately 100% helped me at Lake of the Ozarks. Yeah. I mean, I could idle. There is thousands and thousands and thousands of docks at Lake of the Ozarks, and you can idle and side scan and see brush,
right?
But most of the brush piles that those fish were on piles that you couldn't see with side scan. They would be real small, or way up in under the dock, so many cables and stuff, and I could pop that thing in, and I could idle a whole pocket, and I could just drop a waypoint, and I could say they're on that dock, that dock, that dock, and that dock.
Yeah.
And and it cut my time in half in breaking that lake down.
Wow.
And up north, St. Clair, those smallmouth lakes, I mean, you're literally just idling and looking for a fish or two, and once you find them, you can catch the mess out of them. It's just the hard part is finding them. It's such a vast body of water, so this really cuts that down, and it is a tool that I think you're going to start seeing more and more and more of.
No doubt. No, that's a really good point. And have you guys noticed any interference? Like you're seeing some guys now running a scope transducer off the trolling motor, and then a turret or however else, or for instance, a Sniper Marine mount off the front. Like if you're doing two, so say like you have it for those windy days up north or whatever it may be, rather than having to control the boat. In that instance, is there interference between two transducers that are next to each other that are both forward facing, or do you guys know?
Only where they cross paths.
Okay.
So like if you're pointing here, and it depends on the angle too, like if this one's pointing that way and you're trying to shoot this way, you'll just, and it doesn't mess it up. It's just you'll see a little fuzz, a little array across the screen. But as long as one's pointing here, like if you're side by side and you're both like this, and straight parallel, or and you're moving like that, no problem
No
whatsoever.
problem. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
The different brands, they react differently as well.
Right.
We've been trying to test all the different brands, and for the most part, you don't, or if there is any interference, it's very little. It doesn't actually affect, like
You
Taylor
being able to
saying,
see.
yeah,
It's not affecting you.
it's a little haze, but it's not enough to really even worry about. I mean, you see it, but like you don't.
Yeah.
You don't. I mean,
right.
But we run two poles on the front of our bass boat,
Oh, cool.
and we have because one thing that we designed this pole to do, it really was the first thing that we did design was trolling motor mounts.
Mm-hmm.
And so with our pole, you can mount it on the trolling motor, because we want something that, the first thing you do when you go to a spot is you throw the trolling motor in the water. So it only made sense to us that you're doing that with your pole as well. And so we've got one on the trolling motor on the sniper pole that's attached to the trolling motor, and then we run a side pole as well. And I usually get to work the one on the side, and our partner Trey he runs the one on the trolling motor. But we really don't get interference. We generally run Garmin. If you run, it seemed like if you ran active target beside the Garmin, then those two would create some interference.
Oh, okay.
We don't have two active targets, so I don't know how two of them would react. Mm-hmm. But again, it's nothing to be a concern of.
Yeah, you can sit there and have two looking at things, and that's interesting to me how much I fish a lot of team tournaments every year, and we're both sitting there looking right over it, and obviously making our own cast too, sometimes not, if we're it's still amazing to me how many times you might catch a fish that you didn't look at. Like, that still kind of blows me away when you're fishing with a buddy. You're like, oh yeah, you still can do that every once in a while. That's pretty neat. But I've thought about that, especially in those tournaments where you really are staring at it. It's like, man, you're both kind of fighting over each other. So I wonder, I could see this really taking off in the team stuff. And especially as we're seeing like the Brandon Belt stuff down in Texas, like these big money team events, like why not? Like, that seems like a pretty good fit for me.
Yeah, we've got some guys that are actually are mounting our pole on the trolling motor, and we've got a carbon fiber extendable handle, and I mean it'll really extend out there a long ways. And one guy is running on the trolling motor with the transducer connected to the trolling motor, just like everybody normally does, and then the other guy is operating the one that's connected to the trolling motor with the handle, and they got two screens side by side, and they're utilizing it, and they're winning, I mean, but they're not talking about it, because they've got an edge right now. So, if this is something that you've been thinking about, we highly suggest looking into it and giving us a call, and we can get you set up for sure.
One thing that struck me as we started using it, and especially with the two sonar setup, we might go into a cove and you've got a couple different points that you're going to hit, and you're just running trolling motor from one to the next. And as you're en route to your next spot with a system like ours, you can still completely look around you. It's all the time that we're running from spot to spot, and we'll just find fish just out there cruising.
Totally.
And it took a while to figure out, are those crappie? Are they bass? What's that species? But now that we've been doing it for a while, it's all the time that we're cruising from a spot, and one of us will find, holy smokes, there's three over there. You just start casting at them, and that's sniping. That's sniping fish, and you're catching fish, and usually those are the big ones,
totally.
especially in the crappie world. But yeah, so it's you find fish that you weren't even going after, and that's another beautiful thing about it.
No, that's huge. And I think how many tournaments over the years, and I can think of a tournament I won, just a local event a couple of years ago, where I found them just idling to the next spot, right? Like literally and this was a grass lake specifically, but like I had no idea there was grass in this section. And I just happened to be on my trolling motor and looked down and was like, now what's that little patch out there? And it's like, You know, so how many times does that happen? But that's so much more efficient to be able to look all the way around, because it does suck now. Like if I'm trying to go fast, but like look, but also just go around that next corner, I find myself like, doing this on the boat back and forth, trying to scope as much as you can. But that makes it so much easier because you can run it at, and today's trolling motors too, you can just pick a direction and go, right? Like you don't even have to be sitting there holding it on your foot anyways. So
Yeah.
it's a good
Yeah.
point.
And I'm not the most technologically advanced guy, but a lot of these trolling motors, you can set up paths and
Right.
they just run their path. And so while it's running, you can still be searching, and it's just trying to utilize everything to its fullest potential.
Yeah. And I think in just today's fishing world, like it's all about being more efficient, right? Like the guy that throws at more dots during a day, the guy that has 10 more casts towards fish that are biting, that's the guy that wins. Like everyone can catch them, everyone can like fish at a very high level at this point. And it's like those little differences that make you get a couple more bites in a day. It's like we said, difference between 60th and a difference between 12th. Like it's just it's just how it is. It's a numbers game.
One fish can make a big difference.
Yes, sir. And that's what makes it fun though, because to me it's like you can be so down and out in a derby and you catch a 5-pounder and you're like, wow, that's like you got a chance now.
Yeah, we're back in this thing.
Yeah. Like let's go fill out a limit and we are right there. Like it's oh man, it's an addiction, that's for sure. I think that's part of the problem with bass fishermen too, is we get so addicted to it. But well, awesome. Well, guys, thanks for coming on and everything here. I know we had mentioned and talked about, but how can folks follow along with this? How can dealers, if they're interested in operating things or with you guys, what does that look like right now? How do you guys sell Sniper Marine products?
Snipermarine.com. You can go check us out there at any time. We've got our phone numbers on there to contact us. You'll either talk to me or Taylor, but give us a call. You can shoot us a text. Those are cell phone numbers. You can hit us up on Instagram, also Facebook. We've got some YouTube videos out, but yeah, I mean, we're open. If you want to text, you can text. If you want to call, give us a call. Dealers, same thing. Just give us a ring. We are putting together a dealer program. We're very close to unveiling our. It'll be the most diverse package on the market as far as just I'm going to buy this package and it'll fit my boat. And
Cool.
and that's where for you dealers out there, you won't have to carry 20 different mounts of different angles of different X, Y, and Z. You just buy the Sniper package and it'll end up fitting 90% of the boats out there. And that ranges everywhere from your bass boats, your center consoles, even your pontoon boats. You'd be amazed at how many Sniper poles are on pontoon boats out there.
Dude, I can only imagine. That makes a lot of sense to me. Like that is the market that I think is like, we always talk about bass fishing and this whole deal, and it is a huge section of the freshwater fishing industry, but like how many pontoon boats out there that are starting to learn about forward facing sonar, or obviously all the crappie guys have known about it longer than all the bass guys have, but I mean, like there's so much of just like your average fisherman who maybe kind of fished and get a little more serious, and they watch one YouTube video on forward facing sonar and they're like, what is this? And then boom,
Yeah, and the salt industry is picking up on it too, and especially with the XR transducer coming out, which we've got a trip planned that we're really looking forward to. We're gonna go play in the salt a little bit, but
yeah.
But it's coming. It's coming. All the different species are getting involved. So
there's no doubt, man. I think about it like, especially growing up in Colorado, like the lake trout thing, man, like especially through the ice, right? I saw you guys have some ice fishing stuff. Like guys would be out there and it was awesome because this was like on 2D, you could be out there and jigging big baits and dropping on huge lakers. And like, as we know on forward facing sonar, like those fish that weigh 40, 50 pounds, like they show up really well. And so it's like, man, it's just going to keep going with everything. And I haven't even really looked and diversified in a lot of that stuff. But what I do like about forward facing is, I found a lake out here that has mega perch in it, like 2.5 pound perch, and they are just a blast to catch. But that the crappie fishing, like, it has made me so much more of a diverse angler. Whereas in the past, it's like all I cared about was bass, and now it's like, man, I want to go chase crappie with it. I want to go chase walleye. Like, I love all of it now, and it's been cool to learn how fish set up, and just I think that's my viewpoint on it, is like, it needs to be viewed as something that is so much for learning, because you learn so much about what those fish are doing, where they set up, that we never knew about in the past. And it's like, man, it's really cool to me.
It is, and so we've even sold some units to a few of the what do you call them?
The DNR, like the
Vision of Wildlife people.
TWRA,
Yeah.
and their wildlife researchers.
And and they're using the live sonar to track migrations, to track to track fish. And so they're using it for, studying fish beyond just what we use it for anglers. And so it has, I mean, the live sonar has really, it's been great for the fishing industry as a whole, I believe, and just your fisheries in general.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mother Nature always protects itself, right? Like, that's my argument with people against it. It's like, dude, I promise you, like, they don't always bite, and they are starting to feel that band. Like, I noticed at Lake of the Ozarks, if I got within 60 feet of a brush pile, like they acted different. Like, they turned away. Like, it was, and I think you're going to keep seeing that more, and then it'll open up more people to the bank, and then it goes back. It's just how it goes. Like, right. It's just, there's always going to be that pressure, and Mother Nature seems to protect itself pretty dang well.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, when we can't catch them, they're real smart. But when we catch them, you kind of hook them, and you're like, you dumb fish. But they're not. They're smart. They're smart.
I wish it was like that every time you throw it one, you catch one. It's just like day one at Lake of the Ozarks, it was maybe 1 in 30 for me, and then day 2, it was like 1 in 500. Right? Like, I mean, it's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
But all right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, or thanks for taking the time out, rather, and giving us a rundown on Sniper Marine. Taylor, it's good to catch up with you, man. Here are your plans for 2024, and we'll certainly be looking for more to come from you guys. And for anyone interested, snipermarine.com, and look for all your guys' content. Went through some of that. We'll link it in the show notes, description, everything like that.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having us, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem, guys. All right. Have a good rest of your day now.
You too. Take care.
Catch you.